My group and I are urban explorers and ghost hunters, so I guess we kind of go looking for this stuff. But one of the freakiest moments I've ever had happened in a senior center that was abandoned nearly 3 decades ago. Growing up, you always hear stories about places just like this one, places intertwined with urban legends, stories passed down year after year. So in a roundabout way of saying, this place wasn't new to me. I've heard about it for as long as I can remember. My friends and I had never been there before, which is weird. Naturally, you think that when you start exploring this kind of stuff, that would be at the top of the list, right? But for whatever reason, it wasn't on mine or my friend's radar. Until one day, it was. The 4 of us packed our equipment and piled into my car. The drive was largely uneventful, unless you care about our bad car karaoke, but that's a different story. A few hours and a few gas station pit stops later, we pulled up to a long winding driveway with stone pillars on either side, with a name, which I won't mention, carved into the stone. I found a discreet place to park, we grabbed our gear and set off on the winding gravel driveway, with thick, overgrown trees and grass spilling onto the gravel. After just a few minutes of walking, we saw it, a building towering over us. We all stopped and just kind of took it all in for a minute, just the sheer size of this building that had just been left to rot for years. One of my friends broke the silence by walking up to the door and jokingly saying, "Knock knock, anybody home?" while pushing the door open, leading into a massive foyer with grand stairs wrapping around either side of the walls. It was a warm, sunny afternoon, but as soon as we took our first step into the foyer, it shifted. It got noticeably colder and much darker. Normally that would make sense, but there were massive windows everywhere to let the light in, but it's like it just wasn't. Shaking off the weird feeling, we wandered around a bit, just checking out some of the bedrooms, and eventually things started to lighten up and feel normal. Walking back down the stairs, we were all laughing and cracking jokes. Then we made it to the piano room, and the unease ramped up tenfold. We agreed that this would be a perfect place to take a group picture. The old piano and a massive arched window would be the perfect backdrop. Nervously, I dropped my backpack and pulled out the tripod and began setting it up while everyone got into place. I was behind the camera, taking some test photos, playing with the settings, getting everything just right before we took the group photo. Everything seemed fine. I got everything set up just the way I wanted, took some nice photos. After taking the group shot, we got out of the piano room as fast as we could. After that, we couldn't shake the feeling anymore. We decided to leave. After leaving, everything went back to normal. However, when I went back to upload all the photos, I noticed something weird. Scrolling through the mix of my test shots, I locked in on one picture. Behind my friend, running in the background, there was this black shadow figure. It was basically sprinting behind all of them while I was taking these photos. I usually check most of my photos after I take them on location, and I never noticed anything unusual. It was just this one shot, nothing in the frame before or the one after. Listen, I chase ghosts. I know when to be a skeptic, but in my 4 years of taking photos, I have never captured anything like this. About 4 months ago, I found myself back on the property, just to drop off a few friends so they could do a shoot. I never went inside. They went in skeptics, but who knows who or what came out with them. Last year, my friend and I were exploring a massive abandoned castle. For the sake of protecting anonymity, let's just say it's somewhere in France. A farmer who lives nearby keeps an eye on the castle. He is known to test the windows and doors to check to see if someone entered the place. We were told to close the door exactly as we found it when we visited, as not to alert him. We do a few laps around the property, checking every possible entry. Everything is locked up tight, barricaded with wood, screwed shut. We climbed onto a veranda as the front gate had a big rusted chain wrapped around it. We slipped through the front door, the only door not barricaded. Luckily, it went smoothly and we closed it quickly behind us, leaving it exactly as we had found it. Standing in this massive hallway, we sneak into the first room we see. The castle floors are made of wood. Every step feels loud and noticeable, so we try to stick to the carpeted areas as much as possible. We found the bedrooms quite easily. There wasn't much inside, an old secretary desk, a piano, so we decided to go upstairs. I started seeing more books laying around and I hoped we were getting close to the library, which was the main reason I wanted to visit in the first place. I noticed buzzing coming from one of the rooms. Weird. Peeking my head into the room, one of the windows is covered in flies, though I don't see any reason for the flies, but they're everywhere. We check all of the other rooms on the second floor before moving to the third. That was the only window with the flies. Every time we would pass a window, we would anxiously check to make sure the guard wasn't in sight. Walking around makes noise, and moving next to a window can attract unwanted attention. I'm focused on every sound I make. I try to keep it to a minimum as I hear my hand sliding over a guardrail on the stairs. It's impossible to move around while being completely silent. After making it to the top of the stairs, we're faced with a decision. 2 hallways, left or right. We decide to go right when all of a sudden we hear the door creak open, scraping the floor from below us. My friend and I gave each other a startled look. Fuck. That very instant, I open an armoire we just happened to be standing next to. I step in, pulling my friend in, my shoulder hit the metal coat hangers and they smash together and fall to the floor. Double fuck. We quickly close the door to the armoire and I try to make the remaining hangers stop moving as quietly as possible. For a moment, maybe a minute or two, we hear nothing. Then, there's noise coming from somewhere in the building. We can't pinpoint exactly where it was. It doesn't sound like it's on our floor, but someone definitely came in. It could be something as harmless as other curious explorers, or it could be the guard. Somebody is definitely scurrying through the building, and I am trying to form a picture as to what they are doing, based off of the sounds that we are hearing. This is where it starts to get weird. We didn't hear any doors open or closed. We didn't hear anybody walking through the building checking the place out. We did hear movement, sometimes, but mostly squeaky floorboards as if somebody was waiting for us, standing in place, shifting their weight from one hip to another. Sometimes I think I hear footsteps, but they make a distinct click. The sounds are definitely getting closer now, and they seem to have moved to our floor. I can't be sure, it could be a floor below us, but then we don't have to wonder anymore. We hear them coming up the staircase. The only staircase. It's our only way out, and whoever it was is stopped at the top of it, almost like they are waiting for us. Panic sets in, but we stay put. Some time goes by, and I hear noises that I can only explain, like someone flipping pages through a book. Based off the sounds we're hearing, they are close, no more than a couple feet away from us. I think this is a good time to point out the obvious and let you know just how dusty it was in our little closet, and the two of us hurrying inside disturbed all of it. It took everything we had not to sneeze and blow whatever cover we thought we had. Then it hit me. Whoever was there didn't cough or make any sound since they entered. No talking, no clearing of a throat, no breathing. My friend tries to communicate by looks alone, as the both of us can't move without disturbing the coat hangers or accidentally pushing the closet doors open. I don't understand what he's trying to say. Does he want to wait some more or make a run for it? I guess judging by the lack of action, he wanted to wait, because we were in there for more than an hour, and whoever was outside of the closet was too. Then, the familiar sound of someone's hand sliding up the guardrail for a short moment. I expect him to walk by our door any moment now. For the next 15 minutes, I'm sitting there thinking, any minute now. We can both slightly see through the cracks, but it's like whoever was there is just out of sight. All I'm able to see is the light shining through the same cracks onto the back of the closet. My mind starts to race. What is this guy doing? Doesn't he have anything better to do? The noise seems to move back and forth from the staircase to just in front of our armoire. For the next half hour, we wait. There are brief moments of silence, but not long enough to take the chance that he is gone. Besides, we haven't heard anyone leave. Whoever is out there is waiting for us. My friend and I exchanged panicked looks one more time. "Make a run for it?" I whispered. He nodded, but just as he did, we hear movement. We are both absolutely sure that if we run, we will run straight into whoever is standing outside. Whispering to him again, "We need to be fast, okay? We need to stay together." Another nod. I push my side of the door open, he does the same. Our muscles are stiff, but we run, not looking back. The hallway is empty as our footsteps echo loudly. There's nobody at the stairs. There's no shouts, no other sets of footsteps breaking into a run. We fly down the stairs, cross the hallway, and find the front door exactly as we left it. I yank it open, it widens without a sound. I throw my body over the balcony rail and land not so gracefully in the bushes. I get up and start running again. Only when we hit the street were we able to look back and laugh nervously to each other. Finding ourselves back in the car, talking, trying to find any logical conclusions of what just happened. We know we heard the door squeak, but the only entrance hadn't been touched. We both heard movements and the other noises at the same times, affirming what we had heard. I told him I heard someone flipping pages of a book, and he couldn't find a logical reason as to what that was. We both heard the same movement. We were both sure of the same pathing through the building. We both heard the guardrail. He told me he heard a metal clicking against the rods of the stairway. I guess I missed that. We were both absolutely without a doubt sure someone was standing in that room with us. The sounds we heard sounded nothing like the usual things that you would hear in an old house. Both of us know that ghosts aren't real, so someone clearly must have been messing with us, right? One summer when I was a kid, it somehow got popular to explore the drainage system underneath our neighborhood. Just boring concrete, but when you're a kid, things seem a lot more grand and exciting, although they were just round tunnels made from pre-made pieces. Getting into the pipes required crawling through a tight fit for about 15 to 20 feet. After that, you were able to stand up. As you'd explore the system, you'd find areas that were big enough to drive a golf cart through, but obviously it would be impossible to get one down there. Occasionally, we would come across odd structures, like grates that looked like prison bars that only covered half of a pipe. Every once in a while, you would find a grate with the light coming from it from the road above, but most of the time, we needed flashlights to see anything at all. Every single sound was nerve-wracking, because technically, there shouldn't have been any sounds other than the running water. Of course, we weren't as well as equipped as the Goonies, so we didn't have a map, or even a sense to make one as we went along. Most of the local kids have gotten to know the system pretty well enough to navigate without one, and we figured out that if you got lost, you would just always choose the turn that led into a bigger pipe, because the biggest pipe ran about a half a mile outside of the neighborhood and emptied into a 15-foot plunge into a local pond. Well, one day, my big brother, who is essentially fearless, and some of his friends decided to go a different direction, to explore a tunnel that none of us had ever ventured to before. I admitted, I was too scared to go. I don't know why on that day I was so creeped out, but I was. So 2 friends and I stayed behind in the junction, while my brother and his other 2 friends went on exploring. After they were gone for about 10 to 15 minutes, we heard them shouting. They sounded terrified. Then, the stampede of footsteps echoing down the tunnels coming towards us. My 2 friends took off and ran. I wanted to run so badly, but I couldn't leave my brother down there. Finally, through the dark tunnel, I heard one of my brother's friends shout, "Go!" He didn't have to tell me twice. We all ran to the big tunnel because instinctively, we knew whatever was down there would catch us if we had to shimmy back through the small pipes to get out the way we came in. So we ran, as hard and as fast as we could, flashlight beams bouncing off of the walls until we finally started seeing the light from where the tunnel emptied out into the pond. One by one, we all reached the drop and just kept running into thin air, falling into the pond below. I was terrified of heights, and I still am, but that didn't stop me. I didn't know how to swim either. As I was trying to tread water and stay afloat, my brother and his friends came shooting out of the pipe into the pond. For a moment, I thought they had been playing a prank on us, but I could see the fear in my brother's eyes as he was dragging me back to land. Once there, he insisted that we all go home. He wouldn't even tell me what happened. The entire dripping wet, almost a mile walk home, the only sound of our shoes squeaking on the pavement. The whole group went to my house, and my brother, knowing that we would all get in trouble, he came clean to my mother. He told her where we had been and what we were doing, and that's where I heard the rest of the story. He told her that when he and his friends reached the next junction of the tunnel that they were exploring, they came across a spot where the light was trickling in from above. There was a pile of trash and debris built up around one of those half-pipe prison bar gates that I explained before, and laying within that pile of trash, they saw a man, who upon hearing them, raised his head, reached out towards them, and started crawling out of the trash in their direction. So, they ran. Mortified, my mother called the police, and the police asked my brother to guide them back to the location in the pipes where this all happened. They found everything exactly as he described it, but the man was gone. Within minutes, there were at least a dozen police cars around our neighborhood, with policemen and dogs searching the drainage system. They wouldn't tell us any details, but we do know that they followed his scent to the end of the pipe at the pond. But searching the perimeter of the pond, they never picked up the scent again. So who knows if he made it out. As for my brother and all of our friends, none of us ever went into the storm drains again. I had a close friend who lived in a rural part of our town, probably about 30 minutes from where I lived. Just down the road from his house was an abandoned elementary school. Most of the doors and windows have been boarded shut, but there were still a few ways to get in. There was a group of us that had explored the school a little bit here and there, but we tended to stay on the side of the school where we felt more comfortable. One day, a group of 4 of us decided to go a little deeper than we'd ever been before. It was the middle of the afternoon, so we were confident about traversing the dark school. As long as we could make it inside without being seen by anyone outside, we were fine. We entered the school through a side door that we had previously entered through, as the main door had been reboarded up since our last visit. As we entered the school, we felt nothing out of the ordinary, and we began to explore the classrooms. Before I go on any farther, it may be worth mentioning now that during this venture of the school, we decided to record the whole thing. Although sadly, I do not have access to the video anymore. This will be important later on in the story. Anyways, with that out of the way, we traveled through most of the classrooms, most times going between them through the holes in the walls that were put there by other people. At one point, we had to go out into the hallway because there wasn't a hole connecting to the classrooms. Once into the hallway, we found a door that seemed to be jammed shut. One of my friends forced it open. On the other side of the door was a children's bathroom. Worn down and as disheveled as the rest of the school, the eeriest part of this bathroom was the size of everything. The toilets and the sinks were very small and the mirrors were at hip level for any average adult. Other than that, there wasn't much to see in the bathroom, so we left relatively quickly in order to continue exploring the rest of the school. There were a few more doors that were absolutely inaccessible. We weren't sure what a few of them were, but one of them was the teacher's lounge, so we left it at that. The scariest part of this outing began as we started to head towards the cafeteria and the administrative offices. We were already uneasy about the portions of the school that we had never explored before, so naturally, we proceeded with extreme caution. On our way there, just as we were about to reach the offices, I noticed a faint noise that came from the other end of the school, from the direction we had just came. I shushed the other 3 friends I was with in order to make sure I wasn't just tripping about the noise. As soon as we all got quiet, we very distinctively heard children laughing from the same end of the school. We dipped out of there so fast, completely disregarding the offices and bolting out one of the side doors of the cafeteria that was conveniently unlocked. Later, after we got back to the house, we very much wanted to gain clarity on what just happened. This is where the recording I talked about earlier comes into play. We hooked up my friend's phone to the TV and turned the volume all the way up so we didn't miss a single bit of the video. Once we reached the portion of the video where we were about to leave the school, the room went silent. Not just quiet, like there was no sound. We watched as I shushed everyone on the recording, and then we all watched as we suddenly ran out of the school. The video ended. No clanging, no footsteps, no children laughing. We all distinctly remember hearing the same noises and experiencing the same feeling, but to this day, we're all still confused to the fact that nothing we heard in person showed up on the recording. And out of all of the times we've been back to the school, nothing even comes close to what happened that day.